After the installation process, this is what the welcome screen looks like. Basically, either you will see this screen or you will see the configuration guru. If you don't see the configuration guru, you can just run it by clicking on this tile over here. The configuration guru basically is a simple wizard that guides the user through some very basic questions and that helps the user to set up their network monitoring sensors very quickly. So we'll just go over some of these sections. The first step when you start the guru is for setting the user account for the administrator's account. By default, the username and password is PRTG admin, but for security reasons you should change the username as well as the password, and I've already changed that, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this step. In order to monitor your Windows clients and servers using WMI, you can enter your Windows administrator credentials for the network. Since I don't have any domain setup, I'm just gonna leave this blank. PRTG can be used to monitor your router and switches using SNMP, and by default the settings for SNMP are community string public, SNMP port 161, and timeout 5 seconds. I'm just gonna leave these default settings. If you have virtual environment set up in your network like VMware or Citrix Xen server, then you can specify the credentials for your virtual environment on the screen. Again, I don't have any virtual environment set up, so this is just going to be blank for me. In addition to Windows, PRTG can be used to monitor Linux, Solaris, or Mac OS X devices, and you can configure the user credentials on the screen for those devices. You can specify the SSH port to use in order to connect to those devices, and also specify which protocol to use. PRTG can automatically detect your default gateway as well as your DNS server. As you can see that PRTG has detected my DNS server to be 192.168.1.1. You can also change these addresses and specify a secondary DNS server, and basically what will happen is when you enter these IP addresses, PRTG is going to run the auto discovery tool and going to add sensors for these IP addresses. In addition to the devices already mentioned, PRTG can be used to monitor other servers like domain controllers and Exchange servers. So basically on this screen you're just going to add the IP addresses of those servers. Since I don't have any of those servers in my network, so this is just blank for me. Once you add IP addresses for the servers you want to monitor, PRTG is going to create a new device for each one of those servers and then run an auto discovery in order to automatically set up sensors for those specific servers. PRTG can also monitor websites using HTTP. In order to do that, you can just enter the HTTP URLs for the websites that you want to monitor. So for example, let's add some of the websites here. So when you have multiple URLs, you just add one URL in each line. So basically after you have entered all the URLs, you can just click save and next. PRTG will create one device for this websites and one sensor for each one of these links under that website's device. As already mentioned, PRTG can run auto discovery on your entire network, and this is where you can specify where you want it to run this auto discovery. So for example, my network is a class C network, and I can just specify the base address as 192.168.0, and basically for the range within that address I can just specify the entire range here. And that's it. Basically, now you can just go ahead and start viewing the sensors. So this is the dashboard that the user sees when they have logged into PRTG and they don't have any more configuration to do. Before we can start talking about the sensors, we need to understand the basic object hierarchy that PRTG uses. So basically, you can see there is a tree-like hierarchy of objects, and the topmost level is known as root. So all the other objects are children of the root object. Any settings that you apply at the root object basically can be trickled down to all the child objects and can be inherited by the child objects if you choose to do that. So the other thing that you can do is using this tree-like structure is group objects that are similar together into each one of their separate groups. For example, you can see that cloud monitoring is a group and cloud monitoring is another group. So you can have the same name for different groups, but you can see that the clouds under the cloud monitoring group are different in both of these groups. Similarly, you have an OS X devices group, you have a routers group, and so on. This local probe is actually a special object that is automatically installed on the machine that you have installed the PRTG tool, and basically all the other groups are part of this local probe. And the probe device is also the default device of the local probe. And there are a bunch of sensors here that are also installed by default when this probe device is installed. So now that we have an understanding of the objects hierarchy that PRTG uses, we can go ahead and start looking at some of these different tabs that are provided in this tool. The device tab shows details of different probes that the user has set up in order to monitor their network. Right now we have one probe, which is the local probe. In that probe we have different devices: the probe device, internet connection device, cloud monitoring device, OS X device, routers, and websites. You can also add a new device by using the add device button here. And if you scroll down, you can also see you have additional tools. You can add new probes, group the devices into additional groups. You can add sensors. You can also add the auto discovery group. So let's look at what some of these sensors for these devices are saying. On the top right side of the screen, you can see some status of the different sensors. There are 4 sensors that have been paused. There are 21 sensors that are showing the status of OK and they're up and running. There are 3 sensors that are down, and there is also 1 alarm. So let's look at what this sensor is saying. So there is an RDP sensor for the probe device, and basically it's saying that the connection was refused by the socket, so that's what the error is. So basically it's not allowed, or the RDP is not really set up for this device, so that's why the sensor is failing. But there are 7 other sensors that are working fine. If you click on the 7 sensors, you will see a detailed list of what those 7 sensors are. So this is the name of the sensor: core health, probe health, system health, risk-free, the wireless adapter, Ethernet connector, and there is another sensor for the same adapter. And for each one of these sensors, the status is showing as they're up, and that they're up and they're OK, and the last value that was recorded for the sensor is listed here. The user can choose to prioritize these sensors by using this stars. You can see these 3 sensors are of top priority for the user, so that's why they're listed at the top. And user can also choose to make some of these sensors as their favorite. So let's look at the cloud monitoring group. you can see that the user is monitoring different cloud services like mail.google, drive.google, twitter.com, dropbox.com. All of these cloud services seem to be responsive, and the status is all okay over here. In the internet connection group, we see two of the domain name servers. Actually, these are for UCF. And there were two sensors, one for the remote desktop and the other one for ping. And both of them have been paused for each one of those servers. And you can see the details that the user has paused these themselves. And this, I did this so that I don't put some extra request on the UCF server. And then we have some ping errors for the iPad and iPhone devices on my network. So most likely the device is not responding and is switched off. And then we have these three websites that we added. You can see that the sensor for all of these three websites is showing that the sites are responsive and everything is okay. I also added a sensor for my router, which is also showing as a successful ping, and there's no problem here. So if you go to the next tab, libraries, basically this is a way to customize the view of your monitoring objects, and you can basically group sensors of the different devices into different libraries. And then people who are interested to view, for example, only the CPU load of the different devices, they can choose to view this library. And I'm not sure if I have anything to show here because this is just empty. I don't have a CPU sensor basically. I don't have VMware sensors also, but I do have the WMI sensor, and you can see that if someone who is interested in viewing the bandwidth of the different devices will be interested in looking at this particular library or this particular view. Moving on to the sensors tab, this page shows the sensors that have been defined in the monitoring database. You can see all the details of all the sensors in one page. And you have here the sensor name. You also have this icon which is telling you that the status is okay, or the sensor is paused, or there's some problem or some error. You also have the status of that sensor, whether it's up or paused or down. And you also have additional messages associated with that status. So for example, when it's down here, you can see the message that connection was refused by the socket. So basically, there's a one-stop shop for you to see exactly what's happening with all the sensors that you have set up. Moving on to the alarms page. This page shows a list of sensors that are in error or warning state. You can see that I have these three sensors which are down, and this one is the RDP sensor on my current laptop, and it's not enabled, so that's why it's showing up as down. And my iPhone and iPad are also currently switched off, so there's no response from these devices. So the maps page basically allows you to define a map of your network devices. Here I have created a very simple map using the map designer, which provides you with a bunch of devices that you can add here, and you can make connections to those devices. Then PRTG is intelligent enough to associate those sensors with those devices and basically give you a graphical display of what is the current status of your network and of the devices that are being monitored within that network. So the reports tab has a bunch of predefined reports that you can use. For example, let's run the sizes. I think we need to run this report again. So this is a summary report for all the sensors. It shows some metadata for each one of the sensors, and it also shows some indicators of whether it's overall good or whether there's any failure, and also the uptime for the different sensors. And on the right side for that same sensor, it also shows a graphical display which has information about the downtime, the health, the physical memory, virtual memory, and so on. And if you scroll down, you can see that you have detailed information for all the different sensors that have been defined. And RDP, again, this is the one that has been down for 99% of the time. In fact, it was up for 1 second. And this is the ping for the DNS server for UCF. As you can see that it was up for 10 minutes, but that's about it. And so on. So this is a very useful tool because you can generate the report for any specified interval, and you can use it to define metrics for your organization when you are trying to specify or trying to reach a particular goal in terms of uptime for the different services that are available on your network. So let's move on to the logs tab. In the logs tab, you can see a lot of information of what has been going on in the tool. You can see, let's look at some of the latest actions that were performed. So we added these three objects to the website's group, and for each one of these objects you can see that this child object was added to the website's device, and then a new sensor was added to that, as well as the next step is that the sensor was set, and it was an HTTP request was used to determine the response time and to determine based on that whether the status of that sensor is up or down. And similarly, you see the same thing for the other two sites that were defined as part of this parent object. And then you can just scroll down and see what's happening for the past history. Basically, you have a detailed list of the user actions as well as any of the system's actions that are being performed. So PRTG comes with its own ticketing system and ticket tracking system, and if you have any issues that arise in any one of your sensors, you can create a ticket for it so that you can look at it later and try to resolve that issue. Users have the option for when they log in, they can check what tickets are assigned to them or versus what tickets are assigned to other users. And you can also define different ticket types like user defined tickets, notification tickets, to-do tickets, and filter on those. And you can also filter on the different status of the tickets like open, resolved, and closed. And you have different actions that you can take on those tickets. Either you can assign them to someone else, or you can resolve them, or you can simply close the issue. So that basically covers all the different tabs and usage of this tool. And the last tab, the setup tab, has some system administration type of tasks that the user can perform, and you can specify how you want to be notified of the different alerts from the system. You can also specify settings for the remote probes. You can define different user accounts so that not only you but other accounts can also gain access to the system. And you can also define user groups for those users in order to have some sort of an access control for each different group, and so on. And on this screen you also have some news from Paisley. So for example, the latest news was on the OpenSSL heartbleed bug. This was of course a very major vulnerability in the last couple of weeks, and and you also have some other information here. So that concludes the usage section of this tool. As you can see, it is really a very detailed tool, and it's very useful, and it's also very simple and very intuitive. It gives a lot of information on what is happening in your network and allows you to be proactive and take action when you see some services or some servers not performing optimally. And that can be due to many different reasons. You could have security issues, or you can have network problems, or you can have just hardware related problems. So in all, this tool still has a lot more things to be learned, and I'm sure that the enterprise version of this tool has many more features for the user. So thank you very much. You can look at Paisler's website for the detailed manual for this tool, and you can also consult the project report that was submitted, because that also has links and more links for further study. Thank you very much.